We are live. This is Ron and Dave's Thursday Little Nessie happy hour, and you're probably going to see this guy pop up. I locked him out, but he just barged in the door. He's figured out how to open my doors. So if you see a tail slithering up into the frame, that's what it is. This is Duncan. He just hopped off my lap. But welcome to our weekly podcast, our happy hour podcast. We call it happy hour because every week we start and end with a cheers. So cheers to you, Mr. Stowers.
Cheers.
All right, let's get on with it. Welcome. We've already got visitors showing up. Welcome. Last week I hammered the show with promoting a t-shirt. I don't have any of those this week. I was wearing the t-shirt and I had a QR code and all that stuff. We've got some pretty cool loan officer swag at littlenessie.com/store. And I intended on wearing a different one today. But it was sitting soaking wet in the washing machine because my wife Kelly has stolen it and she wore it the other day. But anyway, if you want to check out some loan officer swag, you saw the QR code. The URL littlenessie.com/store. Head over there. But Ron and I are going to be chatting for about the next hour. We usually go over slightly an hour, and we are just going to have some great back and forth, some good banter. And I usually poke fun at Ron here and there. And McKenna, our producer, she and I pay attention to the chat behind the scenes, both when we communicate with each other and anytime we get comments. And quite often you'll see me and McKenna laughing and Ron having no idea what's going on. So if you see us laughing, that's what's going on. Got something in my mouth. My apologies. But we've got some great topics this week. Probably. We've got some great housing and mortgage and financial topics this week and a few randoms. Ron, how's your week? You've been in Arizona now for a good little while. Staying home?
I have been in Arizona for 3 days. That's great. I got to be here for another 4 days. Luxury, undefined.
Yeah.
But it's hot. It's like 110. It's like warm.
Yeah, Ron's in Arizona. I'm on the East Coast, right on the border of North and South Carolina. And it's been muggy, it's been rainy, but overall nice. So Ron's been in the mortgage housing industry for 25 years. Is that right? About 25?
1999. So let's call it 26.
26, 27. Myself, 15. I entered in 2011. So Rod and I are very different people. I have solely operated on the marketing side within mortgage and real estate. And Ron has done a little bit of everything. Now his passion is the marketing branding piece. And we're excited to launch some new Little Nessie products that we've been working on for, months, but talking about it for over a year now. So, but our podcast is just one way for he and I to, once we do get the wheels turning at Little Nessie, we are going to use this like crazy. We've got our training wheels on right now, but in the coming months, they are going to be off and you're going to be seeing more of Ron and I. We even chatted about doing a daily podcast, but I was like, nah, it's too much. But you never know. We might get there. Let's get to this week's topics. I'm going to kick it off with a little monologue that I do every week. And this one, we call the monologue From the Gut, and it's just whatever I've been paying attention to, usually online. Sometimes it's social media, sometimes it's news, sometimes it's mortgage related. This week I'm talking about Sophie Cunningham, and I asked Ron, it was either yesterday or 2 days ago. I usually give him a little teaser of what I'm going to be talking about. Asked Ron if he knew who Sophie Cunningham was, and he said no. So I'm excited for you to learn more, Ron, about what's going on in the WNBA life and the controversies that has been stirred up. But I'm using her story as an example of social media growth, some things to do and some things not to do. So that'll be the From the Gut monologue. And then we're going to get into three main topics that we usually spend about 8 minutes on. Ron, lead the way on these. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm really excited about our three topics. They're a little bit of inside baseball. And the first one of these topics is the risk servicing shifting to IMBs versus to traditionally being with large banks, and what could be a possible pitfall, coming up, in the future.
Then number two.
This is interesting. This has to do with the changes that Encompass is forcing on the industry. Half of all applications are taking on an Encompass, using Encompass, and so this is a huge shift. And we're going to talk about why it's important, why it matters, and some of the implications.
And finally, our last main topic.
Yeah, this is a pretty common topic. We've known that housing is always represented somewhere around 15 to 20% of GDP, depending on where we are in the economic cycle. But we're going to just break that down a little bit. Look at some interesting data. For example, what do people spend money on the first year they buy a home, and then the implications it has over to the overall economy.
And then we've got, I believe, 4 rapid fire topics that we try to spend 3 to 4 minutes on. And if you see me just kind of doing this every now and again, we've got a surge of gnats in my house. We've got tons of plants, probably close to 30 plants. Anytime we buy a new one, it always seems to come with gnat eggs in there. So if you see me doing this, I'm trying to kill gnats. So don't freak out. I don't have what's it called when you just blurt something out,
Tourette
or
syndrome.
Tourette's. I don't
Tourette
have
syndrome.
Tourette's. Yeah.
And you're
I know
suggesting don't freak
Tourette.
out unless you're David. You're saying
What's
don't
that?
freak out unless you're a gnat. I said don't freak out unless you're a gnat. If you're a
Yes,
gnat,
very
start
good
freaking
point.
out.
Very good point. Although those are slimy, not slimy, but they're tough to catch. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this week's From the Gut. Here we go. All right. So told you that I'm going to be talking about Sophie Cunningham. I started following her, I'm going to guess here, maybe about 6 months to a year ago, on Instagram, I believe. I'm not huge on TikTok. I go on there, but mostly anytime McKenna my daughter sends me some stuff on TikTok to watch. So I'm not on there that much. I started following about 6 to 12 months ago on Instagram. And she's become one of the most recognizable personalities in women's basketball lately. Her Instagram following is now over 3 million. But what's really interesting is how quickly it happened. Now, if you don't know about the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, you've been living under a rock somewhat. Caitlin and Angel entered the WNBA back in 2024, and they had a huge college rivalry, and it followed them into the WNBA with their heated exchanges. Now, Caitlin Clark has become one of the most, if not the most, talked about WNBA players of all time. She did not receive a warm welcome, mostly from her fellow players, not teammates, but all players in the WNBA. She was getting fouled left, right, and center, teams bashing her, and just a level of hate from other players that I don't think has ever been seen before in the WNBA. So about a year ago, during a very physical game where Caitlin received a nasty foul, if I remember correctly, I think it was a poke in the eye, and it looked somewhat intentionally. After that, Sophie Cunningham, she decided to stick up for her teammate, for Caitlin. I've got a short 20-second or so video with that exchange. McKenna, go ahead and play out.
Wilson had it knocked away. Good hands by Allen. And Sheldon comes up with the steal. Sheldon going coast to coast. And here's we got another break is here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham. It was a hard foul, no question.
So it got deemed a flagrant foul. And that was Sophie. You saw take her down, almost putting her in a headlock. It was retribution after seeing her teammate, Caitlin, being just dramatically fouled and abused the entire game. And that was happening every game and still is to some degree. And that moment there, I think that was last summer, that was the beginning of the rise of Sophie's brand, her notoriety. Reports said that she gained approximately 700,000 TikTok followers and another 244,000 followers on Instagram in a matter of days. One estimate placed the marketing value of that sudden growth at more than $1 million. Since then, she's continued to rise in popularity, but what happened just a couple weeks ago is crazy. A couple weeks ago, Sophie attended UFC 329 in Las Vegas. She wasn't scheduled to participate. She was there just as a spectator, just watching the fights. And when she saw Dana White, she apparently told him she wanted to walk around the octagon as a ring girl. I've got one more short 20-second video. McKenna, go ahead and play that one.
Our referee for the co-main event, and Sophie Cunningham, Indiana Fever guard in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark's on-court enforcer, handling the octagon card duty.
When did you hire Sophie Cunningham as a ring card girl?
Why did I do it?
When did you hire her?
About 8 minutes before she did it. I love Sophie Cunningham. We've created a relationship, and she was here tonight. And when she walked in, she goes, "Oh, I want to walk around that." I said, "Then you're going to walk around
it." Imagine the popularity you have to pull that off on Sophie's side. No lengthy contract negotiation, no carefully planned campaign. She saw an opportunity. She said she wanted it and became part of the event almost immediately. Then here's another one. Just last week, a week later, after the UFC thing, I think I'm getting the timing right. Just last week, Adidas released her first player exclusive version of the Crazy Energy basketball shoe. It literally sold out on Adidas on their website in less than an hour, or I think it was less than 2 hours. And most sizes disappearing almost immediately. So think about that. An athlete's personality becomes visible and her audience just explodes. She walks into a UFC event and creates a viral moment with 8 minutes notice. Then a product carrying her name on a brand as big as Adidas sells out almost immediately. That isn't an accident. I don't think it's happening simply because Sophie's good at basketball. She of course is. But there's a lot of talented professional athletes people would walk past in an airport without even recognizing them. Athletic ability may give someone the platform, but personality is often what makes people care beyond this sport. She's funny, she's impulsive, she's physical on the court, and she's willing to poke fun at herself. She also occasionally, I can't talk today. She also occasionally says things that generate controversy. But whatever you think about her, you know you're watching an actual person. And that brings me to something else she said within just the last week. Sophie was asked about, here we go, trigger alert, transgender athletes competing in women's sports, a bit of a hot topic recently over the last few years. She basically argued that only biological women and girls belong in women's sports. That, of course, stirred up some controversy and opposing opinions just this week. But she followed up with a response that said, everyone is welcome at my table. You can disagree and still be kind. And there was more to it, but that was the gist of it. So some people have criticized her, others strongly supported her. Now, whether you agree or disagree on that particular issue with her, that's not really the point I'm trying to make. The point is that she appears willing to tell people what she actually believes. She's bold. She isn't waiting for every person on the internet to approve of her before she speaks. And I think we've created this strange idea around personal branding that being successful means being acceptable to everyone. never saying anything too personal, never saying anything someone could disagree with, or never revealing an opinion or taking a chance, or never giving anyone a reason to not like you. So people sand away every edge of their personality and then wonder why no one remembers them. Sophie Cunningham is showing us something very different. A strong personal brand doesn't necessarily make everyone like you. It allows people to know you. And like they, once people feel like they know you, some will connect with you deeply and some will defend you and some will buy the shoes, some will listen to the podcast. That said, there is another side to this, and it's a risky side. Being authentic doesn't mean sharing every thought that enters your head. It doesn't mean manufacturing controversy because controversy creates attention. And it certainly doesn't mean being cruel just so people will call you fearless. There's a difference between having conviction and performative outrage. But there's also a difference between being thoughtful and being afraid. And I think a lot of people in business are afraid. They say they want to build a personal brand, but what they really want is attention without exposure. They want people to know them without ever showing them anything real. Loan officers do this constantly. Real estate agents do this constantly. They post mortgage rates or closing photos or home buying tips. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We actually help with that. But people also need to know what you do. But if that's all you ever share, they may understand your occupation without having any idea who you truly are. They don't necessarily know what you believe. They don't know what makes you laugh, and they don't know what you care about or stand up for. They don't know what you would spontaneously ask Dana White to let you do with 8 minutes notice. And maybe that's why Sophie's rise has been so dramatic. Now, I'm not typically an advocate for sharing polarizing political views or religious views and so on, but if you strip too much away, you risk entering the bland brand category. Sophie didn't suddenly become more visible because she invented a perfect marketing strategy. She became visible because more people finally saw her personality. And instead of retreating from that attention, she leaned into it. Not everyone likes her, but millions of people know who she is. And in a world filled with carefully managed, professionally approved, completely forgettable content, sometimes the thing that makes people pay attention is simply finding someone who still has a few edges left. So here's the question. If someone followed you for 6 months, could they describe who you are, or would they only know what you sell? That's my From the Gut.
David, that was awesome. That might even be your best one. And I say every time, this is the best part of our whole podcast. You should just do that for an hour. I can get a tub of popcorn, my beers. I'll just watch and listen to you. That was awesome.
I couldn't do that for an hour if I pronounced my words like I did today, stumbling over my words. Any more than 3 syllables got me, it seemed like.
I'll tell you something that struck me, and I'm, as I confessed several times, I wasn't familiar with who she was or is, but the thing that struck me is not just the authenticity, which we talk about all the time, but it's also that she has a positive energy. So many celebrities and athletes, it's look like they're carrying the weight of the world. They don't have any joy. She has an aura about her that has joy, and that's what resonates with humans, right? Like, I love seeing people that love what they do, love their life, and they're authentic about it, so you can trust them. That resonates with me, as a consumer, and that's what I felt when I was both listening to you and watching the videos.
She's a great follow on social media. And just like you said, and just like I said during that, her personality is 100%. Well, not 100%. She's a great basketball player. But her personality is just hilarious. You can see her even if she's injured and she's on the bench during a game. She's more into the game than her teammates that are actually dressed up and healthy and fit. She's so encouraging. She's funny. She dances. She's just a great follow. I think she's a great person to kind of look up to in the WNBA or for any sports for that matter. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the NBA is becoming more and more compelling, as we all
The
know.
WNBA.
The WNBA is becoming more and more compelling, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah, likewise. All right, enough with my from the gut. Let's get into our main three topics. If you're watching, welcome to Ron and Dave's Little Nessie Happy Hour contest podcast. See, I just can't get my words right today.
Dave,
We're talking
were you
about.
drinking were you drinking before the happy hour? Did you get a head
prom-
start? What happened here?
I promise I was not. Ron peer pressures is see, I can't talk. Peer pressures both me and McKenna to start drinking for happy hour because, hence the name happy hour. So we got to have some drinks. So I wouldn't be drinking this early if it weren't for your peer pressure. So hey, on that note, cheers to you, sir. And let's move in. McKenna, go ahead and pull up the topic.
Let's get this. I'm so excited about these topics. All right. Housing risk hiding in plain sight. And McKenna, I think we have one. We have two visuals. Let's go to the first one, please. And I'll frame this up for everybody. So here's the deal. Encompass accounts for about half of all applications taken in the United States. And Encompass, of course, is owned by ICE. About 3 years ago, they said, okay, everybody, we're going to cut off everybody's SDK feed, and we're going to force everybody to go down the API highway. And I don't want to get super technical, but here's what that means. SDK means that if you were a client of Encompass, that you would have access inside of their software, and you could customize your portion of it. You could write your own code inside of their software universe to customize what you're doing. And now they're saying, nope, we're not going to let you get inside the walls and customize that way. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. Instead, you have to knock on the door, the API door, with a highly, not restricted, but regulated JSON on how you communicate, and they only allow certain communications. Now, if you were, an inventive IMB and you kind of built your own proprietary origination system based on being able to customize Encompass through a SDK, this is devastating to you. And if your tech team was built around the knowledge of how to build and manage SDK, now they have to go to APIs. It's not necessarily the same skill set. So you might not have the right skills now to build what you need. And what's happened is that, of course, their clients have loudly complained, going, why are you doing this? We don't want to have to rebuild our entire architecture. We don't have to want to go hire a consulting firm to come and rewire this for you. Like, just leave it the way it is. And so twice, ICE has bent to that pressure and extended the deadline for the cutoff. The third, so this has been extended twice. So now the newest cutoff is December 31st. And it looks as though ICE is going to stick to this. Now, ICE, there's some reasons why API makes sense. One, it's actually cheaper. It's cheaper for the actual client. Like, API connections are cheaper than SDKs. The second is, with APIs, ICE can kind of control what comes into their system, versus an SDK, they just leave a wide open door that any lender can go in. And if that lender's system is vulnerable to an outside attack, that attacker can actually follow through that tunnel that IMB created into Encompass and actually infiltrate the entire Encompass system. And so the API kind of locks the door so that can't happen. So it kind of makes sense. And then once they standardize all sorts of connections, a lot of other things then connect into that API corridor that you kind of want. So it makes sense why they're doing it. But I think that, David, in general, the IMBs that built these huge customizations on a SDK, connection to Encompass, since it's been delayed twice, I think they're hoping it's going to be delayed again. And I don't think they're doing the work to prepare if it goes to an API environment, that's one kind of thing we have to pay attention to. And the next thing we have to pay attention to is ICE so big and Encompass so big, it controls half the market. Do we want one vendor being able to dictate every single client's experience, in this situation? So it's very interesting to pay attention to. Now, if you're a loan officer, you don't care. Just hope your company's taking care of you. If you're, an IMB, if you're on their tech staff, if you're in the C-suite, you got to face this. You got to make the migration sooner than later. And if you don't have the talent on staff, hire a consulting firm or hire a tech firm to make the transition for you. While you can't customize, there's other leverage there, but just be aware at some point, I don't think they're going to extend again. So just go ahead and, swallow the frog and make the build out into APIs. David, this is very much inside baseball. Does this strike you in any way? What's your kind of viewpoint for this?
I've got a thought, but it kind of takes a little bit of a U-turn to the actual main topic at hand. But before I do that, you've been using this word or phrase a lot on just our private calls, and I just let you get away with it. But now that you've used it on our live podcast, let me just tell you, it's Jason instead of Jason.
Oh yeah, I say it wrong. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Jason. But it makes me
Touché.
think of what's that?
I said touche.
All right. It makes me think of the whole debate. Oh wait, what did you say? Touche?
Yeah, like words we pronounce wrong. So I was
right.
I was making a implied joke.
Yeah. It makes well, I'm just going to keep going. It makes me think of the build versus buy argument, and how many more than one company that I've been at where we've been considering a CRM or a different CRM. I think the build versus buy argument has come up almost every time. Well, why can't we just, companies that we rely on, vendors for software and SaaS, and they're always changing and sometimes it's worse and they're always down. Why don't we just build our own? We could build our own for, how much it would cost in, 2-year subscriptions or 3-year subscriptions of this stuff. And I've seen more than one company try to build their own, and it just turns into a nightmare. My question for you, with so much of the industry relying on Encompass, how many companies have you seen where they've gone down the build road and either regretted it or it's worked in their favor?
That's such a good question, David. So few companies, IMBs, actually have the wherewithal to build out a proprietary LOS POS system, and it takes millions of dollars more than they think. And
Yeah.
if they don't do it right, it takes years. It takes a long time, and it suffers from a whole lot of flaws at rollout. So it's very hard. But the big companies, of course, United Wholesale Mortgage, Rocket, the Guild, Rate, Loan Depot, New Res, all have the ability and the staff to do that. But even like those big companies, it takes like 2 years. And David, if you think about it, back when Wells Fargo created their operating system, I want to say they spent something like $300 million on it. And I forget what it was called. It's called like Water or Wave or something. And it didn't work for a couple of years. And even, these other companies, you roll it out, it has a huge hole. So it's a problem. When you see the mid-size IMBs, and I think of like Cardinal that built proprietary, origination systems, it was super flawed when it rolled out. And then it was uniquely elegant, something that nobody had seen, which was really clever. But then it couldn't scale as they grew. It kept breaking. And really only the founder knew how to fix it. And so they had giant gaps in that construction. And now you see other mid-sized companies like Lower and other companies building proprietary systems. Some can do it if they're tech-based, but for most IMBs, you can't even approach it. And I think today, David, in the world of technology, the approach is that you get whatever the tech, you get the main workhorse, but then you use technology to create your interface or dashboard into that workhorse. And so, for example, if you use Salesforce, you might use Total Expert, but on top of Total Expert, I would put in some sort of AI-driven dashboard that lets me vibe speak into the dashboard to create the interface that I want through the technologies, and that's better than total proprietary build.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I've seen it cost more every time, cost way more than what was originally scoped and take way longer than originally scoped. But it seems like if you could do it, I mean, there's a nuance to it, and you got to be the right size company to where it makes sense. But if you can do it, it seems like it would pay off in the long run. But it's a tough road to get there.
Yeah, I think, David, we worked at a big company where they rolled out, for example, a proprietary pricing engine, and it was a year late on delivery and tens of millions of dollars over budget, and then it did not work well when it rolled out. They could have easily just used Optimum Blue and then built a
Hmm.
custom, dashboard to it. And they could have done it
Right.
at a fraction of the price and in months instead of years, and the product would have just been just as good. And
Yeah.
probably you would have the Optimum Blue subscription. And the thing they would argue is, well, you don't control it's hard like in Optimum Blue, when you roll out a new product, you have to get in line to when Optimum Blue wants to, build that for you. And so I understand being proprietary, but for most IMBs, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, agreed. But one of the frustrations that comes with it is, Optimal Blue and Compass, Total Expert, Salesforce. There's so many different technologies that are speaking into each other, and it just takes one chink in the armor. Is that the right phrase?
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
fail or whatever, and it just throws everything off. So, anyway, I know that
Pe-
wasn't the whole build versus
David,
buy.
people would be surprised. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of technologies that stack inside of the manufacturing origination system for an IMB. And it's like threading a needle. The needle has to pass through the eye of every one of those technology restrictions. And so when there's one little change, it's not like, oh gosh, can't you just add this into, say, your POS? Well, your POS is connected to your CRM, is connected to your LOS, it's connected to your accounting, it's connected to your commissions, schedule, it's connected to your pricing engine, it's connected to your secondary sales market, it's connected to marketing, it's connected to so many things. And each of those things have 4 or 5 technologies feed into that. And if you don't make sure that the protocol for the change that you made fits every single downline technology, you just have collapse, and that is the challenge. That's one of the biggest challenges that IMBs face.
Right. You want to move on to our next one?
I do. That was good tech talk, by the way.
Yeah. All right, McKenna, what's next? Ron, take it
We
away.
just talked about the countdown to SDK. You did have a second asset there, McKenna.
What are we
Producer
on?
McKenna, do you want to show up on screen here? As
So we're
Ricky
on
Ricardo
topic
say,
number 3.
explain
Did
yourself.
we
What?
did we just slip from housing or from the first topic to the second topic?
We haven't done the second topic yet. Or at least we haven't done the slides from it.
What was it? Okay, hold on. The first topic. Did I skip the first topic and go right into the second topic? Okay, let's go back.
You may have.
You may have.
Yeah, we
Our
just did
first
the
topic was the
SDK.
housing risk hiding in plain sight.
Oh, I totally skipped it. I went on my own riff. Okay, let's go back to the first topic. Let's try again.
All
Thank you,
right,
guys.
let's do it.
I'm equally excited about the first topic. Apparently I'm overly excited. Okay. Oh, David, this is even better. So that last topic, were you interested in that last topic? It's a little inside baseball. Was that interesting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's on the edge.
McKenna, was that interesting to you? That last topic?
100%.
Super interesting, right? Even though it's inside baseball. This is even more interesting. So thank you. And that's why I decided to skip it. So let's get back to it. This is so interesting. Okay, here's what's happened. Back in the 2000s, even the early 2010s, servicing, banks held 85, 90% of servicing. Banks, meaning the large depositories, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. Of course, Wells Fargo grew massive with servicing. Even Chase, all of them had massive amounts of servicing. And when we got into the new regulatory environment, the new Basel III environment, it really became, a negative for banks to hold servicing. So they sold off all their servicing. They said, we don't want it. We're being penalized. It's not fair. Our reserves are crazy. The reserve ratios for servicing, there's no way you can make money. Plus, the federal oversight different entities are being unfair about how they audit us and hold us responsible, and the concessions we need to make to the consumer, like we're getting out of it. And so the IMBs ate it up. Like, okay, we want it all day long. Because here's what happens. Then we get an opportunity to actually put a fence around the consumer. We get more downstream originations. We actually get to make the 25 basis points per year or whatever it is on each account. So we have great cash flow. Servicing is worth a lot of money. We can leverage that asset all sorts of ways. And it's just so good. So we get good cash flow. We get good downstream originations, all good. It's a beautiful thing. And David, I consult a few companies, and I always say retain, 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 retain. What's interesting, I'm starting to maybe change my position a little bit, and here's why. So, with David, with Jenny, when you service a government loan, a Ginnie Mae loan, what you agree to is that you have to remit full payment to the investors, regardless of whether the actual homeowner makes a payment to you. And so in easy language, David, if I have the servicing on your home and you have a FHA loan, a VA loan, a USDA loan, whether you pay your monthly payment or not, I have to pay the bank regardless, right? I have to pay full payment. All good. Now, what happens, and so when your loan gets distressed, and let's say you go into loan mitigation or whatever, or some sort of modification, I'm still making full payment for you. Like I might be 6 months. If the government does some sort of deal where they give forbearance or they hold, I'm still making full payment. Like month after month, year after year, I'm making payments for you. Now, what happens is that this is actually profitable for servicers because as you get distressed and I have to do more actions, I get a charge for more services. Like if I have to foreclose on you, that's a profit making endeavor for me. But what it is, it's a cash flow killer. And so if you're in distress and I'm making payments for you for 6 months or for a year before I foreclose on you, I just accumulated a lot of cash flow that I'm going to make money on at some point, but I have to withstand the cash flow strain to my company. So now when we talked about banks holding most of servicing, banks have almost unlimited liquidity. They can go, there's all these Fed windows they can go to borrow. They can do overnight. They can do longer term. They have deposits. They have no end of liquidity. Not so with IMBs. IMBs, even public IMBs, have a very limited amount of liquidity. And so if we got into a cycle where we had a recession and rates stayed high, there's probably only one or two IMBs that could possibly actually be able to honor their covenants and make these remittances in a distressed environment. And the rest would have a huge cash flow problem. Cash flow to the point that it would bankrupt them. They make them totally insolvent. Now, if you go back to the 2008 crisis, what the Federal Reserve did is they opened up all sorts of windows or solutions for banks for liquidity, but they weren't willing to do that for IMBs. They weren't willing to do that at all for IMBs. That's problem one. And so today, if we had this mix of thing, a recession, a possible reduction, a fall of home prices, and we had high interest rates, then all these banks that have retained servicing are really, 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 really in trouble. They will not be able to meet their covenants. Period. They do not have access to liquidity, and nobody really foresaw that. And it's a very, very interesting thing. Now, will the Fed come to their aid? Maybe. Or will the Fed force them to sell the servicing back to banks? Probably. And when these IMBs, if they're forced to do it as a distressed sale, that pennies on the dollars, that is going to bankrupt these IMBs, but they have no choice because they can't meet the covenants of the servicing agreements, right? And the other wrinkle here, David, is that in the past where this has happened, like in the early 2020s, what happened though is that the IMBs at the same time, the Fed dramatically dropped interest rates down to ZERP, right? 0% essentially with real interest rates with inflation. And so we had this huge origination boom, and that massive cash flow from that origination boom helped the IMBs that were servicing make these remittances. But in this case, we don't really see, we're not necessarily in a space where we see the Fed lowering interest rates or even being able to control the long end of their interest rate curve. And so if we saw a recession or some sort of continued, softening of home prices, this is going to put IMBs in a really, really bad spot. And that would be full Armageddon. I'm not really ranting yet. I haven't started yelling or spitting at there, producer.
Yeah, I don't
But
think it's quite all right.
you do?
No, I said I don't.
Oh yeah, I don't. But anyway, now do I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily. Is it possible? Yes. What's the possibility? 20%. But it's still kind of interesting inside baseball. So David, what's your take on that? Oh,
I don't
got
think
you
I
at
have
that
a
time.
yeah. I don't think I have a solid take on it. I've got more of a question. Why are we so quick to rescue banks and not IMBs? Is it because banks have more verticals and they're more important to the global or the national economy than IMBs? Or is there some other reason? Is that the main one?
Yeah, well, one, banks are much more regulated and they're almost partners with the federal government, honestly.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And then if you look at Chase or Wells Fargo, let's just say the biggest IMB, let's say Rocket's the biggest, right? Well, a Chase or a Wells Fargo or Bank of America is like 1,000 times bigger. It's not. I
Mm,
mean, we're very small compared to a bank, and a bank has a lot of regulators that live inside their house, and the government
mhm.
constantly goes to banks to try to get solutions when they're in trouble. And remember, it's banks that actually have to sell bonds, mortgage. I mean, like
Sure.
banks are totally an extension of the federal government, and so there's that partnership and trust and control where to the federal government, IMBs are like, gunslingers. We're the wild, wild west. They don't
Right.
like us. And they don't like how we're fragmented and they can't control us. And so they're not looking to save us, honestly.
Well, I guess the damage that could be done if a top five bank went out of business or had to bankrupt versus an IMB, uh, the the effects on just the population would be much, I guess, much more dramatic. I guess that's the main reason, right?
Yeah, too big to fail. Think about it.
Yeah.
Let's call Rocket the biggest entity in the space right now. I think they have a Rocket or United Wholesale Mortgage. Let's say they have 6% market share or something like that. Countrywide had 20% market share, and the federal government did not mind killing Countrywide. It could care less, right? But look how it goes to save even the smallest bank. That just tells you the scale difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's time to move to our third and last main topic. What say you?
Yeah, yeah. Or I'll just go to the fourth one. Accidentally. This is great. McKenna, your little visual assets are awesome. But hold on, can we go back here before we go to that? Can you explain this is because I didn't know
Well,
what it
no,
is because this
Ron, I
is
think she got that mixed up. I think this is for a possible rapid fire. Correct me if I'm wrong, McKenna.
I
That
think you're
is
totally
correct.
right
I
because
pushed the wrong button
we're
there.
on
That one
we're
was
on
my bad.
GDP. We don't even have an
Yeah.
excuse. It's not like we're drinking
That's
or
coming
anything,
later,
right?
and we'll have McKenna explain that image for you because it's a fun story.
Yeah, so we know this. We already know that new housing accounts for about a fifth of the economy. It's a little less right now because we're on a down cycle. So it stays within a range of 16 to 20%. We're more towards that 16, 17% range right now. But it's still interesting to look at, and if you haven't looked at this before, I think it's interesting. And we have a couple of little visuals that will kind of help explain the way. The first one here that McKenna's about to switch to, this just explains to it. Right now, it's about 16% GDP. It's been as high as 22%. And what this says is, when somebody buys a house, a typical home, it drives about almost $9,000 in purchases, which goes into the economy. And we're going to go and let's just show the next slide. I'll show you where it kind of goes to. And David, this is where I think you and McKenna can jump in. So this is if you buy a new home, you spend about $26,000 on furniture related items. When you're buying existing home, you spend about actually 18,673. And if you don't buy a home, you stay in your home, you spend about $10,000 or 9,500. And all that. And then the side you can't read is what it all goes into, whether it's furniture, electronics, or remodel. It's pretty significant. But it just creates a lot of activity, just that purchase creates a lot of activity, a lot of economy, whether it's moving trucks or solar, or it's buying furniture or buying TVs, subscribing new subscriptions for your house, maybe a new water filter, a water system, all that kind of stuff really drives the economy. And so most administrations and government really help drive housing because they know they can't really move GDP without housing. What's kind of interesting, David, is that you've seen a little bit of support coming to housing. One, they've left pretty much mortgage and real estate, to wither out on a vine. Um, Only because that time when we're at ZERP, that 2020, 21, 2022, we pulled a lot of demand forward, and we were all at the at the trough, gorging ourselves. I wasn't going to make another analogy, but we're all at the trough gorging ourselves. That was demand carried forward, and so it's kind of like justice now, where we're kind of in a barren land because we've already satisfied so much demand, and the government's okay with that. And the reason why they're okay with that, David, is because they're allowing these these AI companies now to drive GDP. If we didn't have this massive tech boom right now, this massive drive, you'd see government much more participatory in protecting housing as a driver of GDP. And so it's just interesting how everything's related. And so I think most of our audience is familiar with this topic. David, how does this strike you?
I don't know what it was that you just said that just made me it wasn't quite a light bulb moment because as long as I've been in the mortgage industry, which isn't as long as you, Ron, we've always known how important housing mortgage industry is to the country. And we are the facilitators of the quote unquote American dream. And so we all know that. At least if you work in the industry and you realize how important the mortgage industry is. But one thing just hit me about the ripple effect of our industry. Of course, construction and title companies, but even landscapers and contractors and furniture stores and even just the streaming outlets, Netflix and Hulu and HBO, the more housing formations there are, then probably the more HBO subscriptions that are going to be. And those are just three examples that I thought of, which maybe I never really thought about before. You think of, I guess maybe landscapers and construction workers, but even stuff like uh, uh, how many Amazon devices, I'm not going to say her name, but Amazon, her name, because I've got one right here. How many of those they sell is going to be dictated by how many housing formations there are. And think of how many industries are supported by new housing formations. It never really struck me as much as it did right there.
Well, I mean, Dave, you can also think about just think about the labor that goes into building the house. All those people working, their incomes then go into the economy, into GDP. Because if
Yeah.
money, what I mean, it's exponential. But it'll be fun just for conversation piece. And McKenna, you can probably join us on this. I'm gonna give you guys this is the top 5 spending when somebody buys a new home, when a new buyer buys a home. So in
A
appliances,
new
on
construction or
average,
just a new for them?
I'm just saying new home,
New
not new
construction.
construction.
Okay. All right.
Any home. So on average, the average home buyer spends, and this is in the first year, by the way, spends $800 on a refrigerator or freezer, $600 on TVs, $400 on computers, $400 on washer and dryer, $400 on lawn mowing equipment, and weirdly, $250 on bicycles or, or other health items think like a Peloton. So those are for appliances, those are the top 5. Does that surprise you? Does that make sense?
It does, but the number's actually lower. And let me post a question. If you're watching this, put it in the comments. What are some items that maybe you've spent some money on when you've moved into a new home that you didn't expect to spend it on? But the numbers that you just said, Ron, are actually a little bit lower than what I would have thought. I mean, it's fairly traditional now to when you leave a house, when you sell a house, to leave all the major appliances, the stove, the refrigerator, usually the washer and dryer, but not always. But yeah, the numbers that you said somewhat took me back, and I would have expected the dollar amounts to be higher.
Yeah, the thing is, there's so many things competing for those dollars. But McKenna, what was your take
Yeah.
on that?
Every single one of those just sounds painful. What was the total amount to that?
It's like it.
Probably
Well, the
4,000,
total for
5,000.
well, yeah,
Ugh.
just on those 5, and this is the average spend of a home buyer in the first year. I know it
Ugh.
does. It does sound painful. Okay, you guys, you want the furnishings on average
Yeah.
first year? $1,200 on bedroom furniture, other than mattresses and springs, so it doesn't count the bed. $1,200 on other stuff. $1,200 on sofas. $1,100 on just blind shades or other window coverings. This is on average,
Yeah.
right? $800 on dining room furniture, and then $600 on other living room furniture like sofas and whatnot. So that's what you get on furnishings. Now, remember, David, to your point, these sound low, but this is in addition to what we already did for our appliances.
True.
All right, you guys want remodel and repairs, and then I'll get your feedback.
Yep.
Yup.
Average. This was when somebody buys a home. The average homeowner spends when they buy a home in the first 12 months. To your point, David, on low loan amounts, low totals, $4,500 on patio furniture.
Oof.
Like, whoa,
45.
right? Yeah, it's actually $4,302.60 on patios, walks, fences, and other enclosures, driveways, and repairing pools. The next thing is $3,500 on landscape, which is just shrubs and trees. $3,500 first year. $2,800 on finishing a basement or attic or enclosing a porch. This is the average first year, right? Crazy. $1,100 on other improvements or repairs. Yeah. And so that's good enough. So, right now, all of these start to be a lot, right? That's how they get to the $28,000 on a new home, or the whatever it was, $18,000 on an existing home. That's a lot. It starts to be, pretty overwhelming. To your point, McKenna, what's your thought? Does that make you want to buy a home or make you want to
I think
I
you're
don't
stay where you are?
discouraging her, and she's getting ready to throw up.
I don't want to buy a home anymore. I'm okay. I'll be a renter forever.
David, what's your
And
thought?
Poe. That's no additional valuable thoughts than what I've already given. But yeah, I can see how those numbers could be very discouraging to a first-time home buyer. But and those are average. So you gotta factor in the fact that there are extremes on the high side that are factored into that. But I would
Yeah.
doubt that your average US home buyer that's a first time home buyer is spending even close to not just the dollar amount, but spending on just the amount of stuff that you just mentioned as well. So I think hearing those stats could be misleading for a first time home buyer, because there are plenty of affluent families, neighborhoods, cities in the country to where those numbers can kind of be a little bit discouraging at face value.
Yeah, I think your argument to use the mean instead of the average is probably legitimate. The one
Yeah.
thing, David, though, that I would encourage our audience, the mortgage and real estate professionals, whether this is the high number, the mean number, or the low number, is still worth talking about to your clients about the costs once they move in. Like look, here's what most homeowners experience in the first year. And so
Yeah.
you may prepare yourself, you may consider this when buying, because I don't want you to be surprised, or I don't want you to be distressed about it. And that just could be really useful counsel, before the purchase.
Right. I think it's time to move on. But in the transition, I've got a giveaway. So if you're watching right now, we've got some viewers right now. And if you're even watching this after the fact, I will still honor this giveaway. But what it's going to tell me is that we've had viewers into the 53rd minute, 54th minute of the show to see who's actually watching it. And I think this is going to be a true test for your brother, Mike. McKenna, go ahead and pull the image up.
Hey,
Of
David,
our
can I interrupt you
t-shirt.
for a second?
Yeah.
David, can I interrupt you for a second? Because one of our viewers wore one of our shirts last week and was on national TV. So this isn't
I don't think you told me he
inconsequential.
was on TV.
Yeah, see, so this is a real thing. like, a real thing.
Right. Well, I did, to be fair though, I did create that t-shirt just for my own selfish desires. Um and so it's not really a Little Nessie t-shirt or per se, or a loan officer t-shirt per se. It was one that I just did for fun because of the World Cup. And McKenna, if you can work on this, I'm sending you that photo. Just work on getting that into the show notes here in a second, or show graphics. But here's a giveaway.
Hey, hey,
So
David,
yes,
David, you
go
just
ahead.
perfectly framed why you're in marketing and I'm in sales.
Why is that?
Because you
I don't
stepped
quite
all
get
over
it.
my cell. You trampled all over my cell. I was promoting your product and you walked it back.
You're absolutely right. And that's why it takes two to tango. I'm getting all red here. I've turned the AC down like 3 times. I'm gonna do it one more time because it's
Because you,
hot with
what's
all
that, a
these
rude word?
lights.
That's because you got that cat probably sitting on your lap. You're probably just being a fur coat.
All right, so here's the giveaway. If you're watching this, whether you're watching it right now or whether you're watching it later, if you go to, you can either scan that QR code, it takes you to that specific t-shirt, or if you want to see all the t-shirts, go to littlenessie.com/store. I'm going to send 5 free t-shirts. And here's all you have to do. I had McKenna. Here's the t-shirt that Ron was talking about. Ron, do you want to explain what and who is in this t-shirt?
Yeah, so this is my brother wearing your T-shirt, and he's with Kyle Stowers. Kyle's plays for the Miami Marlins. He was an All-Star last year. Was on injury reserve this year, so I didn't get it at the beginning of the year. But I believe this is a pre-game, and I think Kyle was just being interviewed. Was going into an interview from there, and so Mike sent us a picture of it, saying, "Hey, love the shirt, guys." So giving us some press. So thank you, Mike.
So you can't quite see it, but that shirt is the Tartan Army. It resembles a Tartan Army, and Mike bought that 2 weeks ago, I think, on our show, and he is wearing it proudly there next to his son, a big time major league baseball player. But anyway, McKenna, you can get rid of that one. Go to the main one. So here's all you need to do. The first 5 people, I had McKenna pick a code word. McKenna, if you show the t-shirt graphic again, not the one with Mike and his son, but the other one, the generic one with the QR code and the URL. But I had McKenna pick a code word. McKenna, what's that code word? Your audio, you're on mute.
Pancakes.
Okay, so if you type in the comments pancakes and the name of the specific t-shirt that you want, the first 5 people, whether you're watching it on YouTube, I'll read it by timestamp. So whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever we are right now, then I'll send you the t-shirt that you actually put in the comments. So McKenna's keyword, code word is pancakes, and in addition to that, put the name of the t-shirt that you would like to be sent for free. And we'll have I'll have some more. I'll have at least one more t-shirt on there for next week. But
Are we at least going to
let's
charge for? Are we going to at least charge for shipping?
No, we're not even charging for shipping, Ron. McKenna, we're going to jump a couple topics. Go ahead, Ron.
No, I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I saw your comment. So there it is. So pancakes, code word pancakes, and the name of the t-shirt that you want to be sent for free, coming at you. Anyway, let's move on. Let's jump to rapid fire number 3. Trust is the rarest thing you can offer.
And you know what, McKenna? As I get to see you more on camera, I realize how much you're chuckling all the time. It's like you're having your own experience there. We need to keep on camera more often. Speaking of that, can you explain what the heck is this picture that we
So McKenna chooses all the
30 minutes ago?
images. Yeah, so all like the topic overview images. Ron and I don't even see them until the day before we go live. And McKenna can go in many different directions. And she told me before I saw this one, she was like, Dad, you're going to love the image that I've chosen for one of the topics. And I'll let McKenna tell you why.
I did say specifically that you would be proud of me. because it's the only way
Yeah.
that I can have my father be proud of me. But
Oh, gee.
so this is an image from one of our favorite movies, me and my dad's, called Train Spotting. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. I'm about to say what it's about, so maybe you won't want to watch it, but it's about Scottish heroin addicts. And I was trying to figure out what image to put, and I had like this, that, and the other idea. And I finally thought of the exact kind of thing of what I was looking for, because in this scene, this character that you see, Spud, he is in the middle of a job interview to get into the leisure industry, and he is absolutely bombing it. Has no experience in the industry, is completely lying right out of his ass. And the reason that he's doing that is so that way he can still stay on government benefits, just to say that he's going to job interviews, but so that way he can scam to get benefits without working.
In which you're doing so good about encapsulating our topics, because that's really what the topic is about, is just sleazy salesmen and misrepresentation. So good job, McKenna. Can we go to the first visual? And
Well,
I'll
can I
pre-frame
just
this.
add something real quick?
Yeah.
Ron, you said sleazy sales are misrepresentation, but I also think that McKenna just misrepresented the movie Train Spotting. And she said it's about Scottish heroin addicts. And I would argue with that. I think it's a much larger movie than Scottish heroin addicts. I would say it's about escapism. I'd say it's about freedom versus responsibility or identity, or maybe the cost of the environment that you have forced yourself or force yourself to be in, or just stayed in without getting out of. There are much better themes in Train Spotting than that.
There are fantastic themes in Train Spotting, and I could have mentioned all of that, but if you've forgotten, this is a rapid fire topic, and we've already run the timer down to 5 seconds left in this topic. So,
We sure
just
have.
saying.
All right, let's go with it. No more wasting time. Go.
No, that's not wasting time. All right, let's go to the first visual. Perfect.
Are you
Here's
there,
the
Ron?
thing. This came from Bloomberg had a edition on, what'd you say, David?
You froze. I don't know if it was
So,
you or me. Keep going.
oh, sorry. So Bloomberg had this special reporting, and essentially it was titled "Everything's a Scam Now." And so they had these 5 articles that you see here about just representing how everything's a scam. One, they use, look, credit card holders are scamming credit card companies by doing fake returns and demanding money. And then job hunters are using AI to cheat interviews and get into jobs they can't do, and they get them fired. And then brands, cereal brands, whatever, Hershey, they're changing the ingredients to cheaper ingredients so the food tastes like crap, and they're not telling you why. They're just padding their profit margin. And then we're not going to get into politics, but politics, whatever party, you can't trust them. And then finally, we're also being sold all these miracle solutions to the weirdest problems, and we're buying into it. And the whole point, David, is that as a consumer, we have been completely now conditioned to not trust anybody. We just simply can't trust anyone, and with good reason. It's like, have you ever opened up a bag of Cheetos, and and the bag is 2/3 air and 1/3 Cheetos? You're like, what the hell is this? Or whatever it is, whatever the thing is. It's like total misrepresentation. We're totally being fooled all the time. We're totally, like the emperor has no clothes. Like, they say one thing, and it's blatantly obvious. It does look like Tourette syndrome. It's blatantly obvious, that it's not true. Politicians tell us, don't believe what you see. Like, we can't believe a thing. And so the question, we can go to the next, the second visual. The question becomes, in that type of environment, how does a loan officer or a real estate agent exist? Because everything we do is about trust. right? Our clients have to trust us, or we actually can't convey our value to them. And if they come with distrust, our number one job is to first pierce through that distrust and create trust, because nothing can happen unless we have that trust. And so, we talked about why it matters and how to gain trust, but I think our audience knows that. But the thing we need to just do is be sensitive that where they start, understand it, even call it out, respect it, and then say, but here's how I can help you. I need to help gain your trust so that I can help you. So you're willing to accept my advice. You're willing to accept my leadership, how I guide you. And you have to figure out strategies to get past that. David, what's your thought on that?
I'm thinking about nothing other than my From the Gut with Sophie Cunningham. And if you're just watching now, at the beginning of the podcast, I talked about Sophie Cunningham for about 10 minutes or so. And it makes me think about just the world we're in right now, where trust is becoming more rare, AI is becoming a thing, social media influencers are trendy and all of that. And to your point, trust is becoming more rare. And I think that's why that From the Gut with Sophie Cunningham, or I think that's why she's gone so viral, and her influence has just dramatically increased, because she's being herself. She's not afraid to show it. You may love her or hate her. That's not my point. But just being yourself and showing up, and not having this polished PR campaign around your company or your brand or whatever is that you asked me what I was thinking about. I couldn't think of anything other than just kind of Sophie Cunningham.
Yeah, that's perfect. McKenna, you want to come on? What do you think? Just as, you're a consumer in the world. Do you have that same kind of jaded feeling like everybody's lying to you or working you? I do, by the way. What's your view?
100%. There's very few things that I trust right out the gate, even whenever it comes to, like, whether it be whatever text message I get, whatever call I get, like, all of those end up being scams. And I've also, like, I like to shop online, and all of those, I have to, like, religiously go through reviews and go through, like, so many different steps whenever I buy something, if it's not from a site that I've shopped from before, because I've gotten so many things where it was a complete scam and I wasted my money. And so even just like in my own personal experience with that, so it gives me, just from that specific point of view, it gives me such distrust for everything else.
Yeah, we all live in a state of distrust first, which is unfortunate. That wasn't true generations ago. But if you're a salesperson, then you have to master how to pierce through that. That's a new skill. But anyway, David, McKenna, this has been a great show. We got to wrap it up. I know we're late.
We are a little late. I always say at the beginning of every show that you and I are going to chat for about the next hour. And today I said we usually go a little longer than an hour. And McKenna just told us 3 minutes ago that we hit 1:05. So we're 1:08. So we're right in that 5 to 10 minutes late window. So it was a good one. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed the topics today. We actually skipped 3, I believe, topics because we just rambled. So it's been a great show. If you're tuning in now, then go back to the beginning because we had some great topics and some fun banter, and it might be worth a rewind. Just stick that tape in the VCR and hit the backwards arrow, and it'll rewind for you. But anyway, if you've joined us, we appreciate it. We've had a great time. Join us every week. We go live. I think it's typically on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We're not live on Instagram or TikTok yet, but we will be in the near future. Again, I said at the beginning of this podcast that Ron and I are still are treating this as if we had our training wheels on, but we're waiting on something specific before we go full out. And you'll know about that soon. So if you've joined us, appreciate it. We'll start with a cheers. We'll end with a cheers. McKenna, bring yourself on camera so we can cheers all together.
The banquet beer. Oh, no,
I was
no
gonna
banquet
say
beer today, McKenna.
I'm drinking some rosé today.
There you go.
Versatile.
All right, guys. See you next week. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, McKenna.